So we want to thank Andrea for leading us this morning. We want to thank Bobby and Felix who will be doing reading. We've on Digit on tech. I want to remind everybody we've got some upcoming services. Next Sunday is Larry. He's got a thing on happiness, which you guys will appreciate. On the 22nd, we have Kenneth is going to be with us on the 22nd. And the 24th will be Zoom from Morelli's, our traditional Christmas Eve service. Okay, this is an intense time for pastoral care. And I don't think, well, there's been some interesting church changes around the country. And from what I'm able to read, people have misunderstood that the day of the golden pulpit are over. The day when you can have somebody who is the voice in the pulpit and will attract people because of the voice and the ability to preach is going to draw the mobs. Those days are over. And we're seeing some incredibly well-known pulpits firing their clergy who are great preachers because they're not attracting the crowds. Well, those days are over. And some of the congregations have not made that. The other thing we're finding out that, and I've been arguing this forever, pastoral care is absolutely essential in the normal congregation. I don't care what the denomination is. You're going to get a few churches in every denomination that are social justice beehives, but they're just a few. They're going to be those that are totally wrapped up in rituals. Those are just a few, but most try to find a balance between social action and pastoral care. And we're finding that a lot of those that have lost the balance are not doing well. And so pastoral care is absolutely essential, along with social justice and along with preaching and rituals. You need all of those in balance. So speaking of pastoral care, we have 6 people that are in pastoral care. We've got 5 more that need check-ins. We need 2 more that are visits, and that's just in the next couple of days. So you need to know that even though we are with Zoom, we still wind up seeing lots of people through Zoom, phone calls, and texting. And that's the way it is today, but you need to know that is very much a part of what we do at All Souls. Now, Pam has joined us also from Forest Hills, and Pam is turning into quite an artist. And Kay Schweitzer is with us. Yes, Kay is back with us again. We're glad to have Kay with us. So good morning, everybody. Now, one last thing, and this is something that I guess it's really my jumps on my shoulders. We have had this year 30 worship services by the end of the year. We'll have had connections all through the year. We'll have had book club all through the year. We've got a Naki with disabilities and marginalized that's brand new, that's been very popular. And all I can say is our giving is down. We are off $1,000 from our budget. We've had to go into our reserve. We started with a reserve of 9. We're now down to 8, a little bit under. I guess you can really get mad at me because I don't like raising money. I don't like running around asking for money. And the reality is you have to do that. You have to remind people that, the place doesn't take care of itself. We don't have an endowment. We don't have an endowment like a lot of other churches do. So we have people who give regularly. Let me ask, if you haven't given anything lately, would you please remember All Souls this year? We are, for a small congregation of about 130 people who we take care of, we provide a lot, and we do it with Zoom, and we did not do what the big article just came out said this is what happened. With COVID, a lot of congregations did a lot of creative things. Then let me tell you what happened. As soon as COVID is over, most of those congregations went back to the way they were doing things before COVID, and now they are a mess. We are, believe it or not, Little All Souls, one of the few congregations that changed and continues to change. And I think we tend to take that for granted. So if you haven't given, we've got a group that gives regularly. please remember us. And I'll have to send some emails out because we try to provide a lot, but we can't do it on nothing. And for those who give regularly, thank you. For those who don't have any money to give, I understand that. I understand that. But for those who haven't had a chance, if you just remember us, please. Okay, having said that, it has been a wild week. I want to ask you to remember we have had upheavals. I don't know if you saw the latest news, but the butcher of Damascus has fled the country. Just like that, in a week. The nasty butcher is responsible for just enormous numbers of people's deaths, has fled. We have had too many deaths everywhere. And I will continue to ask you to keep in your thoughts and prayers all the innocent people who, through no fault of their own, wind up being injured or hurt or die. That is a constant in our planet, and we need to be constantly reminded of those who, through no fault of their own, are hurt, injured, or dead. So we light a candle for hope, for love, for care, genuine care. May it be so. Amen. Our introit, Psalm 50. That language was Aramaic, the language that Jesus used and is still spoken in some parts of the Mideast today. It was asked, was at a funeral. That was a very interesting. Psalm 50 is a psalm in which the writer says God is not interested in all these offerings, all these rituals without any real meaning to them. You have to be able to have rituals that have behind them good works, good deeds, kindness, loving, and caring. Without them, they are useless. And so that was what that psalm was about, and basically saying to the two churches, you need to talk about not so much rituals, but how you care and love was the implication. Our call to worship this morning, I ask those of you who would, if you read with me together. Welcome, beloveds, welcome. Welcome the many hopes and fears in our hearts. In this time and space, may a revival course through us, as electric as a surge of energy, as serene as a nourishing meal, as contagious as joy. May our time together honor all we hold within. May our time together bless and keep us. May our time together be love in motion. Come, let us worship together. And for those who wish, if we would read a morning prayer together. Lord, make me a channel of disturbance. Where there is apathy, let me provoke. Where there is compliance, let me bring questioning. Where there is silence, may I be a voice. Where there is too much comfort and too little action, grant me disruption. Where there are doors closed and hearts locked, grant me the willingness to listen. When laws dictate and pain is overlooked, when tradition speaks louder than need, grant that I may be a force of justice and not just one talking about it. Disturb us, O Lord, to be with and for all manner of oppressed and forgotten. Lord, let me be a disturbance of good. Every time I worship with you all, and either Michelle or Larry or Andrea are preaching, I'm always amazed at how much I learn. The music alone. Have any of you heard that song before? Wow. Where, just a learning experience. Bobby is going to read first from the former President Jimmy Carter. If you would, Bobby.
I have one life and one chance to make it count for something. I'm free to choose what that something is. And the something I've chosen is my faith. Now, my faith goes beyond theology and religion and requires considerable work and effort. My faith demands, this is not optional. My faith demands that I do whatever I can, wherever I am, whenever I can, for as long as I can, with whatever I have to try to make a difference.
And Felix is going to read from the book of the prophet Amos.
Woe to you who desire the day of the Lord. It is a day of darkness, not of light. There is no delight in your solemn assemblies. You offer me your time and talents. I shall not accept them. Take away the noise of your songs. I shall not listen to the melody of your harps. But if you truly love me, let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. Selah.
When I was a child and when I was growing up, the memory of President Jimmy Carter was one of apathy. He was denigrated as an unsuccessful one-term president. And as the years grew longer past his time in the Oval Office, so the stories about his time there grew milder. We started to pay attention to his work with Habitat for Humanity. And many of us, inspired, got our own hands dirty doing the work. It was through his example that I spent the first 2 spring breaks of my years in college helping to refurb a youth camp. We did the work because the work demanded doing. This Sunday, today, is the second Sunday of Advent. And if you have a liturgical heart like mine, you might remember that this is the week that we celebrate peace. And while we are looking at peace, we know off in the corner of our vision that next week is joy, and then beyond that, hope arriving. But they're not here yet, and neither is joy, but peace. Peace is here. Peace, it means so many different things. Some congregations pass it during our services as a greeting, as a reminder of staying nose to the dirt as we meet each other where we are. Peace for others of us is the blessed breath in the silence when the guns and the bombs stop. The silence when our heartbeat feels entirely too loud. Still others see peace as the promised land, the long road getting us from there to here. Peace, though, is also the pause in a busy day when only we remain, when we shake off the stresses and the worries that we attract. If peace were a goal, I would say it is breath. Peace has a breath, a single breath, space carved out intentionally where seeds can blossom. Peace is the work of faith that President Carter was referencing in our first reading. More specifically, peace as a life's work is what he meant. Now, President Carter's quote is beautiful, but it is a quote with deeply Unitarian ancestry. Specifically, one of my favorite Unitarian ministers, the Reverend Edward Everett Hale, who wrote this in 1902. I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do. A month ago, we had an election. We've done it before. But the first time we did this thing, there was a lot of different noise in the public square, noise over certain people not being allowed entry. Derogatory statements were uttered, not unlike some that we heard. There was noise, there was bluster, there was threats, there was even attempts to shut it down. There were lawsuits too, and I remember praying for the success of many of them and the failure of some of them. Anyway, at the time, I was deeply active in Chicago's live lit scene, which is a fancy way of saying that I gigged solo stage shows and poetry readings every chance I could get. I made a little money, nothing that I would ever call good, but I made some really good friends. And it was one of those friends, Eileen, who recruited me for the 2017 edition of the Filet of Solo. Now, the Filet of Solo is produced by Lifeline Theater, and it is a multi-day, multi-artist extravaganza of poetry and storytelling, music, and theater productions. The org itself has deep ties to the Rogers Park neighborhood in Chicago and have built accountability into everything they do. It is a masterclass in nonprofit work. Back to the gig. The piece that I prepared for that show is called At the Chime, and it is told from the perspective of a watch person, recording the events of a certain night as they unfolded. And it was a thing that I could do. Folks wanted to hear that particular story, so I was able to corral that story into being. And after my performance, as I was about to start the long ride home, I received a message that a flare had been sent up. A request for people to attend a rally/protest at O'Hare Airport's Terminal 5. The flare had been sent up by a dynamic coalition of folks: the Council of Islamic Organizations of Greater Chicago, the Council on American Islamic Relations in Chicago, the Arab American Action Network, the Jewish Voice for Peace, and the Illinois Coalition for Immigrants and Refugee Rights. NBC News later reported that there were more than 1,000 of us there that day. They also reported that with volunteer legal assistance provided by an organization that has 4 letters in their name, the 16 folks that had been caught in the president's executive order and detained at O'Hare had been released. That outcome I can only attribute to our presence at Terminal 5 and the news attention that it brought with it. But it wasn't the words that we chanted or the high fives from the police that was the most impactful. It wasn't the empowerment to pursue peace and justice in equal measure either. No, what stayed with me and formed me in the wake of that cold night is that we, us humans, we are made for peace. We are made to be peace. We as individuals and collectives must be peace. Where we find sharpness harming another, peace demands that we heal it, not talk about it. Where we find the outcasts, those whose hearts are stone and not flesh, peace demands that we open our circles, inviting inward and drawing them ever wider. Where we find different perspectives, peace is inviting us to sacred dialogue. If we as individuals are called the connection, then what harms are healed by our silence? It is okay. We cannot do everything. We are, after all, just human. We are just one, and we will always be just one. And if we cannot do everything, we must do something. So we must never refuse to do the something that we can, because our faith goes beyond just theology. Our theology includes one another. Easily and especially, we are more differences than similarities. Yes, our faith requires considerable work and effort. Our faith demands on this piece of the second Sunday in Advent, it demands that we do whatever we can, wherever we can, whenever we can, for as long as we can, with whatever we have, all of it, so that we make whatever difference we can. That is the work of peace. That is the promise of the Advent season made manifest as it becomes hope and joy. We create peace because the alternative is unacceptable. Selah.
In the Hebrew Bible, there are what are called minor prophets. Terrible translations, English, minor. Andre had us read from the book of Amos. Another quote-unquote minor prophet was Micah. And it seems to me that this is a good passage to read as we have the meal. With what shall I come before the Lord and bow myself before God on high? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings? Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams, with tens of thousands of rivers of oil? No, he has told you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? But to do justice, to love kindness, to walk humbly with your God. Or as we would say, whatever power speaks to you, to walk humbly, to do justice, love kindness, to walk with that which grounds you day by day. The meal is a symbol of that in its simplicity of simple bread and simple cup, offering to everyone a sense that as we eat, we not only eat for our nourishment, but we eat to go forth, to make some peace, to make some joy, and to offer some hope. And so once again, simple bread for all, a simple cup. And then we return, as we always do, to that great theologian, Winnie the Pooh, and ask you to repeat after me. Promise me you'll remember. You are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, smarter than you think. God didn't promise days without pain, laughter without sorrows, sun without rain. But the divine did promise strength for the day, comfort for the tears, and light for the way. And Andrea leads us in our concluding prayer.
May the God of beating swords into plowshares be with us, keep us, and uplift us as we do the work of justice. May we be the dreams our ancestors dreamed. Selah.
And now may the sun bring you new energy by the day. May the moon softly restore you by night. May the rain wash away your worries. May the breezes blow new strength into your being. May you walk gently through this world and know its beauty all the days of your life. May the words of the wise ones guide you, and may the blessings of the divine abide in you this day and every day. May we go in peace, in peace, in peace. May it be so. Amen. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you for reading Bobby, and thank you for reading Felix. Again, I want to thank Andrea for her share, and I want to thank Andrea for introducing us to, again, music. I don't know if the rest of you were like me, the music that I had never ever heard before. Were the Longest Johns Irish?
English and Welsh.
English and Welsh, the hammer, the anvil and the hammer, two great songs. Thank you very, very much for being here. We've got Christine and John from Port Orange, Felix from North Miami, Andrea from Chicagoland. We've got Ray Rowland from Washington Heights, Bobby Vance from Kissimmee, Rory and Griselle from Lake Worth, Nick from near the airport, Serge from Asheville, Pacton Care from Miami, Danny Sorkin is from Forest Hills, Sarah's from Alabama, the coast of Alabama, Pat is from Forest Hills, Maureen is from Farmland, Pam is from Forest Hills, Kay is up from the middle part of Florida, and Nikki Linguist is down from a very, very small town that is now 50,000 in below Miami. Thank you all for being with us. Next Sunday is Larry. The Sunday after that is Kenneth is with us. And don't forget, we have Christmas Eve as well. Blessings and peace be to you all. Amen.
Amen. Good service. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Andrew.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great week.
Yes,
Do well, y'all.
Have a good one.
Bye. Thank you.
everybody.